Good evening and welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. I am Joe Chaffee, and to my left is the now double-shotted Joe Rayo, who has completed his COVID shot today. You got your second shot today, did you not?
Yes, we did. We did.
Okay,
Now we're fully vaccinated.
okay. I don't see a third eye growing. You may. You don't have.
Well, hopefully everything will go swimmingly as we move into the overnight hours tonight. People
Right.
have been telling me drink lots of water, take Tylenol, do this, do that. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, I will
Well,
tell
we'll
you.
see what happens.
Well, I will tell you. My daughter and my son-in-law got the Johnson & Johnson shot, which is the single shot, and they had side effects Saturday night into Sunday morning, and they came while they were sleeping, and they came pretty quickly, but it was 24 hours and done, and they're perfectly fine today. So that's good news on their part. And I, of course, am now going into my sixth day of my second Pfizer shot, and I've had no side effects whatsoever. So I'm assuming that I'm going to have no side effects whatsoever. And while we wait for those side effects or whatever other special effects you might see on this show tonight, the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware as spring is underway. And of course, we saw the best of it last week and the worst of it this week, but it doesn't matter because at Omni True Value Hardware, they're busy whether the weather is good or whether the weather is not so good. Folks loading up their trucks with gravel and mulch, and mulch is the big deal here because they have tons and tons of it. They actually make it. You see the camera swing around, you'll start to see some of that beautiful red mulch and the darker mulches. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. The website omnitruevalue.com on Long Island. Support your local businesses. So I'm trying to decide, Joe, whether was today a doom and gloom day or was it a gloom and doom? Wait, was today a gloom and doom day or was it a doom and gloom day?
I would say gloom and doom. I woke up the first thing this morning, looked out the window, and I said, "Look, it's rather gloomy out there." By the way, today is National Grilled Cheese Day.
Oh, every day is something different, and really, why can't we have like a national just stop it day? Just stop it. Enough. Okay. God, it's every day is a new. They've come up with tomorrow it's going to be National Bic Pen Day. I still have a Bic pen, and by the way, they are thinner than they used to be.
Do you remember when they used to shoot Bic pens out from a rifle into a target, and then they heat it up on a flame, and impact so great the pen barrel is shattered, but it still writes. First time, every time.
It does. Yes, I remember those commercials quite well. So,
in fact, this is a Bic. No, it's not a Bic pen. It's a pen from a hotel, but it looks like a Bic pen.
Which one did you lift that one from?
This is Crystal Inn, Salt Lake City, Utah. Oh, I haven't been to Salt Lake City since quite a few years. That was a weather convention. That was a weather convention at Salt Lake City.
Maybe the statute of limitations has passed on whether they'll prosecute you on that pen. So, getting a break tomorrow from this gloom and doom weather here in the Northeast and the northern mid-Atlantic states. There were places that barely got to 50 today. Meanwhile, I had blue sky and sunshine here in North Georgia with a nice gusty northerly breeze and temperatures that were in the 60s. I mean, just an absolutely gorgeous day. So I guess as long as the blocking pattern holds, that's actually very good for me down here because it keeps things mostly dry and no severe weather issues.
And are we ready for the end of the week when there's the potential for some places in eastern New York and adjacent western New England to maybe see their final snow of the season?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I know some of the models were showing, varying amounts and degrees of frozen and or freezing precipitation, be it the European or the GFS. I still am going to stick with my idea of elevated areas, mainly above 1,500 feet. Although I wouldn't be completely shocked if Thursday night, and I think that's really going to be, Thursday night into Friday morning. That will be probably the time frame where you might see some wet snow mix in those places, or go over to whetstone and probably maybe even accumulate in those higher elevations. I wouldn't be shocked if places in elevations lower than 1,500 feet see some wet snowflakes or some ice pellets. I don't think it makes it down anywhere close to the coast, in my never to be humble opinion. I know the snow weenies might be jumping up and down, but I'm not on that. I'm not on that page.
Yeah, once again, as we said yesterday, it looks like it's going to be a case of cold enough from the top down. And unfortunately, by the time it does get all the way down, it may be just a tad too warm for all of you snow lovers to enjoy. See, although, maybe a few wet snowflakes may make it all the way down. But if you're looking for accumulating snow, that doesn't look like it's doesn't look like it's going in the cards right now. Maybe in a few days things might look a little different, but right now,
it's too
that's
early.
about as cheap a drill as you can get.
Sure, I mean it's too early to see what the actual profile of the low levels is going to be. We're not going to really know that well, and at least get a good hint of it until about Wednesday. But one of the things you're going to need, here's a couple of things in my mind that would work against it, and that is, if this were a really super strengthening upper low where you had a surface low that pressures were going to drop from, say, just to throw some numbers out there, from say 10, 12 millibars when it's east of Virginia to something like a 988 or a 984 south of Long Island, east of New Jersey, then come talk to me, because then in a situation like that, you're likely to have some really good vertical motions to work with Thursday night into Friday morning, and that might be enough to cool the atmosphere, the bottom part of the atmosphere, down for at least a few hours. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that on the guidance at all. And the other thing is, once you get past sunrise on Friday morning, I'm kind of thinking you're not going to get a whole lot of intensity out of whatever precip is on the back side of there. So in which case, you'll be sitting in bone-chilling raw upper 30s to mid 40s, and you're still going to wind up seeing rain out of that.
Well, we do have a rather formidable, or is it formidable? I'm always wondering how you.
I'm a formidable guy.
Exactly.
You're a formidable guy.
I've been formidable. I've been a formidable person for many years, Joe. But it does look like the storm is going to be bombing, so to speak, bombing out Thursday night and Friday morning. And if you look at the, and again, this is like 5 days away, 4 days away. If you look at the FGen, you can see that a lot of the good Omega is out to sea to our south and to our east come late Thursday night, Friday morning. I mean, you really would need that to kind of swirl up and over us for us to have a shot or a chance to see any of that snow actually, A, develop at the coast, and B, possibly even stick. And even if it does stick, it won't be sticking to the pavement. It probably would be sticking more to grass and colder surfaces. But again, it may make for an interesting end of the week scenario here. Right now, though, it's gloom and doom, or doom and gloom. We're in that type of a pattern. Although, again, tomorrow, as you said, we may see a little bit of a break, a little sunshine in the afternoon. That might be the only really nice day, if you can call it nice, that we may see all of this week.
Yeah, that's your break day tomorrow. A little bit of a reprieve, and then we go back into the gloom and doom. The other upside, I think, is Saturday looks like a decent day, assuming everything pulls out the way it's being advertised. We should have some sunshine on Saturday. We might hold on to it for a little while on Sunday, and then after that, maybe another weather system comes in for early next week. No sign of any really truly warm weather, although in upstate New York, they had temperatures up close to 80 degrees yesterday, because we had one of those upside down days where if you broke out into some sunshine, the further north you went, the temperatures were able to take off. And of course, if you were sitting in clouds all day yesterday in rain, you had the opposite problem. And the spring is the time of year where you usually do tend to see upside down days where um, it heats up wherever the sun is out. So if it happens that it's dry to your north and you're sitting in clouds, you're going to wind up with temperatures that could be significantly cooler than places that are normally significantly cooler than you. So there.
So there, yes, and it wouldn't. You know, we're so deep now into the spring season, so let it snow on Friday. Come on, and if anybody up there is listening, let's make 1.4 inches of it accumulate at Central Park, so I can get my 40 inches for this season.
One good thing for areas in the in the Gulf states, well, at least as far as severe weather is concerned, there probably is going to be some rain to deal with along the southern part of the Gulf states later this week. But as far as severe weather outbreaks going on, that looks to be on the table for now, or off the table for now, I should say, as the blocking just brings down too much cool, dry air southward. And it really doesn't leave an opportunity for the Gulf of Mexico to really warm up, open up, and shoot the tropical moisture other than along the immediate Gulf Coast and pushing it much further to the north. And then you get those days where temperatures are in the 80s and dew points are up close to 70, like we did late last week. Meanwhile, the first of two upper lows, one now moving finally out of Ohio and moving right along to the southeast, but we're still seeing areas from Northeast Virginia up almost to northern New England, socked in with clouds, and there are some showers. There's a second upper low that's behind it, and well behind it at the moment, sitting up just north of northwestern Minnesota, and you see the rotation of the clouds. That's the second upper low that's coming down for Thursday and Friday. Meanwhile, wintertime is going to be still in force in parts of the West and in the Rockies, particularly in Colorado and Wyoming, because they're going to see some snow. And I actually had to pull up the WPC's snow forecast maps, Joe, to take a look at what their never-to-be-humble opinion is on snowfall, both the short and the long range.
Right, the northern plains look like they're going to be in line, not just for something this week, but even as we move into the latter stages of the week. There's yet another system. Everything is moving, not moving quickly, but everything's kind of jammed together. I mean, no sooner does one system move out, but another system is moving in. And if you indeed are a snow lover, a winter weather lover, as Joe just mentioned, the West is the place to be for that kind of weather over the coming days ahead.
I'm going to pull up the Canadian satellite loop here, and while that loads, and we'll come back to it. Let's go to the radar, and I'll give this a quick refresh, since I haven't refreshed it in a while. But Joe, this is where you're in the wrong place. You're getting showers and they're coming in off the Atlantic, moving pretty much from southeast to northwest. But if you go from New Jersey, south of Route 80, down through southern New Jersey, most of eastern Pennsylvania, down in the Delaware, very little's going on precipitation-wise, and there's been very little going on there precipitation-wise for most of the day. So it just kind of lined up in where the rain is in this sort of narrow band here. It did make it up into upstate New York, north of Albany, which is good news because it's dry there, and you're seeing rains back up to Lake Ontario. But that is arcing northwestward. Meanwhile, you have showers in central PA now and northwestern Virginia, northeastern West Virginia, and northwestern Virginia. Those showers are moving southeast. So that's your upper low. The upper low, if you look on the radar, it's probably somewhere south of Pittsburgh, I'm guessing here. And moving along. So you're dealing with this circulation that is just taking its sweet time getting ejected. And then the same issues going on with precipitation arcing northwestward through the upper peninsula of Michigan, moving northwest back into northeastern Minnesota. And then you see the rotation in the other direction. This is snow up in North Dakota that is moving southeastward. So the time of year where you get these upper lows and you see things spinning around, and they really can impact the accuracy of your forecast. If you don't have the position of the upper low correct, you could bust a forecast very easily in a pattern like this.
This may have been a problem for whoever does the forecast for the New York Mets yesterday. As you may be aware, if you are especially a Met fan, they decided that they would start the game.
Yes.
Even though it was raining, they decided that they were going to start the game at the 1:10 start time. And no sooner had they started, 8 minutes later, they stopped it. They covered the field. They waited 2 hours and 10 minutes. And then they finally just threw up their arms and said, "Okay, that's it. No game today."
Yes.
And my sister, who is
but we get to
my
keep the
sister's a big
parking
Met
lot
fan.
money.
Well, exactly. The parking lot money. And also, of course, if you have fans already in the stands, you keep them there for a couple hours to consume whatever beer or food or drink that they possibly could get their hands on. And then finally, it's all right, they've been in there long enough. Call the game.
Right.
And they'll never. And the thing is, they'll never admit it. They being the management of the Mets or any major league ball club, they all do this. And yet, they turn around and they say, well, the forecast was problematic, and they didn't know when it was going to begin or when it was going to end or whatever. So they always put the blame on us. Well, meanwhile, they're sitting there, collecting their money for for the food, for the parking. They've done this more often than not. They could have if they really, and of course any good forecaster worth their salt would have been able to tell them, hey, you know what? You're not going to be able to play a game today. Why don't you just cancel? Of course not. They're not going to do that. They need to get some revenue. So
somebody has to pay those.
Somebody
has to pay those $100 million ball players.
Exactly. Well, $100 million. The Mets have a $343 million ball player.
Oh, good Lord.
I hope a lot of people went to Shake Shack at Citi Field yesterday and consumed a lot of hamburgers, because there's going to be a lot of hamburger money going to that one player on the Mets.
Paul Robin points out the upside of this, and that is that at least we can't blow any more games if the Mets don't play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in fact, a long time ago, and I've been a Met fan for a very long time, my grandmother got me for one of my birthdays a New York Met mug, coffee or tea mug. And the best part about the mug is that when you got to the bottom of the mug, it said on the bottom of the mug, after all the beverage that you were drinking, tea or coffee or whatever, was gone, it said at the bottom of the mug, "We can't lose today." And it was on the outside of the mug, there was a picture of Mr. Met holding an umbrella. So,
oh, good Lord. The southern parts of the Mid-Atlantic through the southeast and down into Florida, no radar action. Across the Gulf states, no radar action. Starting to see a few thunderstorms pop up, a little small area there in central Texas. That's where the severe weather risk is for today. The Storm Prediction Center, well, let me roll it back. I was looking at days 4 through 8, which has potential too low for all that whole long-range period. Slight risk of severe weather in a very narrow area extending from, I'll just say from about Del Rio on the eastern side, and then you see how narrow it is. It just kind of pushes northwest of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The marginal risk runs up into southeastern Oklahoma and a very teeny tiny portion of western Arkansas, and that's it. And they also have a little small area of general thunderstorms in the western half of Pennsylvania. That's with that upper low. So if they haven't happened yet, they're probably not likely to happen. And then when we go on to day 2 for tomorrow, we're seeing another small area of marginal risk in East Texas and over the state of Louisiana and a small portion of southwestern Mississippi. And on day 3, which covers the period from Wednesday into Thursday, it's just general thunderstorms possible from Texas to the Carolinas back down to the Florida Panhandle. No severe weather area is being indicated at this point. And as we said, from days 4 to 8, looking at potential being very low. And here's the SREF. I'm sorry, this is the HREF model. And you can just to take a look at what's transpiring here with respect to conditions aloft. There's your upper low at this morning at 8 a.m. sitting in northeastern Ohio. And then you also see that second upper low that's back in Minnesota. And the two of them are kind of chained together, but the lead upper low is, for the most part, weakening. And by actually at 9 o'clock tonight, it's forecast to be a very tiny closed low in southeastern PA. And then it moves on out. And then, of course, what's left behind is the strengthening upper low in the western Great Lakes, and that is going to wind up starting to move to the southeast. And, of course, if you look on the upper right, you'll notice that there's a strong upper low near south of Nova Scotia not going anywhere. So the three of these upper lows, you've got that one, you've got the one in the lakes, you've got the next, another one, a rather vigorous one that came in from the west, and that winds up in near Idaho and Utah, and that'll be the seeds for the snow that'll probably be that will be occurring in parts of the western U.S.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a long stretch. But again, tomorrow we can hang our hat on a little bit of dry weather and a little bit of brightening of the skies and a bit of sunshine, and then it'll all go downhill thereafter. And again, that system on Thursday night, Friday, rather intense, something that we'll have to watch carefully as it passes on by south of Long Island. And that upper low, Joe, associated with that system will make it slow down a bit as we move on into the day on Friday. Hopefully it'll be able to move out just far enough to allow us for a bit of sunshine and a return to fair weather for the start of the weekend on Saturday.
Mr. Ruben Fairchild is doing his best at offending all the Met fans on the board. When he's done with them, he'll probably work on everybody else. We have winter weather advisories, northeastern Montana, the northern half of North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota. Nothing up yet for the in the west, other than some red flag warnings in parts of California and in western Arizona. And you can see a little severe thunderstorm watch that is up in that slight risk zone in Texas. WPC's rainfall for the next 7 days, with most of, still getting some rain tonight, Joe, but the 7-day totals from 8 o'clock tonight to 8 o'clock next Monday night, an inch and a half or more. And in northern New Jersey, they've actually got it somewhere between an inch and 3/4 and 2 1/4 inches there. And in the lower Hudson Valley and maybe to New York City and western Long Island, also a small little bubble of an inch and a half in southeastern New England. The 3/4 of an inch to an inch pushing well up north of I-90. Again, good news for the dry areas in upstate New York. Heavy rain of 3 to 5 inches in southern Louisiana and into southern Mississippi. The either side of that, an inch and a half or more. But again, you see how it's pushed down more toward the lower part of the Gulf states and not pushing all the way up. And that's the block at work, kind of keeping everything suppressed to the south. Precip amounts in Colorado, northern New Mexico, Colorado into Wyoming. Liquid amounts anywhere from a half an inch to as much as an inch and a half. So somebody's going to wind up with some big snows there out of that weather system coming in. The Northwest is dry, much of California and down into Arizona dry, and then you see this little cutout from southern South Dakota, eastern Nebraska, Iowa, northern Missouri, through much of Illinois, Indiana, and western Ohio. No precip is being forecast there in the next 7 days, nor is there any precip being forecast for much of central and northern Maine.
It must be interesting to be able to live in that cutout that you just mentioned in the nation's midsection. You're kind of in the middle of well, kind of like an oasis, if you will, and everybody all around you is getting hit with some sort of precipitation, rain and snows off to the west and south, and just plain rain south and east. And it almost looks like there's a bullseye of, if you will, of precip over the immediate tri-state area over the next 7 days,
yes,
based upon what WPC has come up with.
David Fuller hit Super Chat tonight. Thank you, David. Most appreciated as always. As we take a look at the WPC snowfall probability, 95% probability of at least 2 up in northern North Dakota. And then we'll that of course is with the upper low that's up there tonight doing its deal. And then that next one, the one behind it, is the vigorous system that is responsible for this forecast for the next 72 hours, and this is going to come later in the forecast period. But WPC has a couple of areas there of 80% or more in Wyoming, in the central and western Wyoming, and also southeastern Wyoming down through central Colorado, just west of Denver, showing probabilities of at least 2. I'm going to jump over to 4. Let's see what they do with the 4-inch probability over the next 72 hours. And not too shabby here. Central Colorado, north central and central Colorado in a patch there, 80% probability of at least 4. I always like to use the 50 as a good measure that 4 is a pretty good bet there. And also back through Wyoming. Let's go to 8. Let's see what 8 has to say. Do they have big numbers for 8 at this point? Loading. There it is. The light blue there, 50% probability west of Denver in north central Colorado and also into southwestern Wyoming. So probably going to see some isolated 1 foot plus snows out of this. And on the long range, okay, I thought this was good for us to look at. So let's take a look. I'm going to bring it, well, hang on, as the maps kind of reset themselves. I'm trying to get the new forecast. And if there's this is for the period from Thursday into Friday, Joe, in the Northeast, the probability of at least 1/4 of an inch of liquid equivalent of snow or sleet, WPC is not impressed. So they have nothing. And then
nothing, yeah.
Right. And then for Friday, that's for Thursday into Friday. And then for Friday into Saturday, if I can get close enough, there you go. Somewhere in the Green Mountain National Forest and somewhere in the White Mountain National Forest, they have a 10 to 30% chance of at least 1/4 of an inch liquid equivalent of snow or sleet. So at least from what they're thinking, if you look in the Catskills, if you look on up northward into upstate New York, there and also into western New England, and the models are actually even showing some snow in parts of northwestern Connecticut. WPC, I guess at this point, has just sort of given it the big yawn.
Yeah, but things will change, Joe. We've seen that happen. Especially even the even WPC, or the SPC people. We have seen, for example, in SPC, we've asked the question, why aren't they forecasting convection for a specific region? And then the next day they kind of agree with us and they get more and more hyped on convection. Even though we're scratching our heads and saying, why aren't they doing anything? Same thing with WPC. I will bet you that when we get to Wednesday or Thursday, we'll start seeing more of upstate New York and Vermont, New Hampshire, Western Massachusetts get into the probability for some sort of frozen precipitation.
I agree.
But again, right now,
I agree with you. They're probably a day behind on this. And you're right. That's not unusual. You and I have already stated from earlier in the show. I mean, we're thinking elevated areas much further south than what WPC is indicating stand a chance of getting something out of this. But I really would feel more comfortable to wait, to wait till Wednesday when we can see, what exactly we're dealing with here in terms of, I'm going to be looking at vertical motions. I want to see what the actual temperatures are. How much of that cold air is going to actually mix down. Are you going to get precip intensity? Where's the low going to be? Where's the upper low going to be? Then I think we'll be in a much better position to figure this out. But right now, this is just sort of winded speculation, I guess, for the most part.
Yeah, and again, all winter long we've been saying that if you go much beyond 3 or 4 days, this has not been the winter for making long-range projections because things always seem to change. They turn on a dime, so to speak. So we'll see. Maybe by mid and late week we'll have a much better handle. I'm sure we will as to what we may see. But after all, it is a rather potent low that they're trying to develop. south of Long Island by late Thursday night and Friday. And your first glance at that, and you say, "My God, what what are we going to see in terms of precip?" And with the 540, I mean, Joe, we're the 540 is like even on the European is well south and
Yeah.
well east of us.
But that's because it's so cold aloft. That's not low level cold air. That's aloft.
Right. From the top top
From
on
the top down.
It's, yeah.
Top down storms. Top down storms can work well in the winter months, and they can even work well during the month of March. When you get into April, it gets a bit more dicey. But I just pulled up the 18Z GFS, which I had not looked at. I saw the 12, but not the 18. But you can clearly see the traffic jam and the problem. Last week, the block was south. Remember, the block was south of Greenland, which is why we had a northerly flow here in the upper atmosphere. It produced that bone dry, that Arizona dry air that we had for 3 days, and a beautiful sunshine for 4 of the 5 days last week. But now the block has moved up further north into the Davis Strait, so it's in a position where our weather is going to be impacted by these upper lows that are trying to move along. So if you're just looking out here in the Atlantic, you've got one between Greenland and the Azores. You've got this strong upper low and storm south of Newfoundland. You've got this upper low that is right now sitting in western Pennsylvania that is going to be passing offshore. And then we've got this upper low. This is the system for us for Thursday that is going to be moving through the eastern part of the United States. And another one is born from that when we move the map to Tuesday night. We have an upper low in northern Nevada. That's going to be the storm for the western part of the United States as that drops down and tries to move eastward. But I mean, look at this log jam here. This is you've got 1, 2, 3. I mean, these things, where are they going to go? There's one can't move unless that low, that southeastern Nova Scotia, gets out of the way. How are the other ones going to move along? It's a total jam here.
Kind of like the eastbound Long Island Expressway at rush hour in the afternoon.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
It is a slow moving weather pattern, and the interesting thing is that the GFS, what about 2 weeks ago, was kind of headlining or kind of alluding to something around the middle of the month, around the 15th, 16th of the month, and I think a few days later we were laughing at the fact that they had the GFS was suggesting 18, 20, 24 inches of snow for portions of central and eastern Pennsylvania and up into central New York. And I will say simply, I want to give the GFS a pat on the back because it still looks like there's a chance we may see a significant storm and possibly some snow. Certainly not 24 inches. At least I wouldn't say that now. But elevated areas, it's going to be interesting to see what the final outcome will be by the end of this week with that system. And again, everything moving very slowly, hopefully moving just fast enough to take all of this out of here to allow us for at least part of a good weekend with some nicer weather on Saturday. Yeah, on Saturday, Joe, maybe to take our first take the tractor mower out and give it a ride on Saturday. But
nice.
Obviously, if it rains or snows,
right,
that ain't happening.
Yeah, nice, Oliver. We have the new film Oliver.
Stanley, would you like to help me with this piano?
Yes. It's really that low. If you look at the rotation of the low that's south of Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, that has to get out of the way. And it finally does start to move, which allows the Great Lakes low to move eastward. If you want to see snow anywhere closer to the coast, you would need that upper low to go a little bit further south than what's being indicated here. It kind of moves right on top of New York City and Long Island. You want that upper low to probably be down, say, in Delaware Bay. That would make for a very interesting scenario in areas just north and west of the coast in a situation like this. But if it does wind up tracking the way it's being forecast, your heaviest snows are going to fall in those elevated areas that are going to be north of the track of that upper low, and that would mean the Catskills and maybe western New England. And then finally, it does get out of the way, but then the western, the Colorado low starts to swing east, and some of that energy gets involved with some flow from the northwest. So that would mean for something maybe for Monday. And then, of course, the models were sort of advertising some sort of full latitude trough potential here for the middle of next week. And it's trying to do that here to a certain extent. It's a little bit on the broad side, but you've got troughing in the east and ridging in the west. So if you're looking for dry, warm weather, you're not going to get it with this. I did see some hints on the prior run that after that pulls out, we get into some ridging here in the east, and it does show that. This would be for the weekend of April 24th, 25th. But then look at that. Here comes another. Here's more energy dropping down from the northwest that drops another big cutoff into the eastern part of the United States toward the end of the month. This was not seen in the month of March. I will say that.
And if you remember, it wasn't too long ago that the experimental, quote unquote, the experimental 3 to 4 week prog was suggesting that the month of April would be from one coast to the other, warm, very warm, in fact, above normal. And it doesn't look like April is going to turn out that way, at least the middle and latter part of April. Now I think these Climate Prediction Center is saying in the shorter term of things, the 6 to 10 and the 8 to 14 day outlooks show, they're predicting more of a colder than normal weather pattern for much of the central and eastern United States. So it just goes to show you some. I guess that's why the 3 to 4 week probability forecast is still in the experimental stage, because I don't think they have it quite right just yet.
They seem to, and I forgot who it was that's pointed this out a couple of times on the chat board. I don't remember who it was. If you're on tonight, say something. But it always seems to me like CPC takes this sort of default position that everything is going to be above normal, and if it's going to be anything other than that, you have to really prove it to them. Because we saw that a couple of times during the winter time. I think, if I remember correctly, they weren't exactly bullish about the 3 cold weeks, the 3.5 cold weeks that we had in the month of February back in January. I'm thinking back that they were going for above normal temperatures until the blocking pattern showed up, and also the opening up of some colder air coming down out of Canada getting involved. But it does seem to me, Joe, that it's like their default position is we'll just say above normal all the time, and then when we get there, we'll deal with it.
Yeah, I guess so. This system. Somebody on the chat board they've been talking about the volcano, I guess down in the Caribbean. But there have actually been several volcanoes. Actually, there's one up in Iceland. Now there's one down in the Caribbean that has been belching a lot of ash and dust. And somebody, I think Christopedia was talking about the fact that ain't no Krakatoa, and you're right. However, if there was any kind of climate influence by that Caribbean volcano, Krakatoa was kind of like getting hit. If you want to use a boxing analogy, it was kind of like getting hit by a left hook from George Foreman or one of those Ernie Shavers, or one of those big boxers, with the big powerful punches. One punch and you're down and you're out. But this system, this volcano down in the Caribbean, while it may not have the potency, let's say, of a Krakatoa or a Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines back in 1991, while it may not have that type of potency, if it keeps doing what it did today and yesterday, it would be kind of like the opponent on the ropes while the boxer just keeps pounding away. Now, if it keeps doing this over a span of let's say a week or 10 days or a couple of weeks, there may eventually be a lot of ash, a large aerosol cloud covering much of North America, much of the Northern Hemisphere, and that may go a ways to having some kind of an influence on the climate.
It's got to get up.
Volcanoes have.
Yeah, it's got to get up into the stratosphere in order for that to have a real impact. So I saw yesterday with the St. Vincent volcano, the plume got up to about 22,000 feet. That's not you need
That's not high enough.
yeah, it's not high enough, and you need a really super eruption to have a big worldwide impact in terms of temperature, or at least a northern hemisphere type of impact. Uh, Back to short range, of course. There's our for tomorrow. Everything is gone, so hopefully, we see that improvement coming. Probably some leftover clouds in the morning and some sun in the afternoon. But then here comes the system for Wednesday night and Thursday. Now the surface low. You've got the upper low and the reflection of the upper low with lower pressures in the eastern lakes. There's a surface low that pops up in eastern Virginia, goes offshore, and then because the upper low is diving southeastward, that surface low pivots back to the northwest and is just east of Montauk by Friday morning. And you see how the GFS does have that sort of light, even some of the darker blue snows in western Massachusetts. I call that into question at this point because if that surface low inches a little bit further to the north, this may be a moot point as far as wet snow is concerned. So it really is going to hinge on that upper low coming at least as far south as what's being modeled now. If it winds up being a little bit further south, then we could be having a different conversation here tomorrow and Wednesday. Meanwhile, low pressure with that new upper low, the piece that the western part of this that forms a new upper low in the west, you start to see snows developing here Tuesday night into Wednesday across Colorado and Wyoming, and that actually continues into Thursday and early Friday morning. So this is kind of a long range, a long duration event for them, although it's mostly light stuff, at least initially. Then you get into some bands of heavier snows Thursday night into Friday morning as that system pulls to the east. And then Saturday looks like our East Coast low pulls out. Weather improves for Saturday. Kind of wants to try to hold on for Sunday. And now the GFS seems to be taking a little longer, bringing up some moisture, keeping it out until Monday night and Tuesday when it's got another system coming. That western system sort of pivots around and moves up the coast with some rain next Tuesday. And then beyond that, we've got a cold front with a chilly high going into the weekend of April 24th, 25th. And this is what it does with a low in the lakes and a strong cold front reaching the East Coast along about Sunday, Monday, April 26th, 27th, and some colder air behind that. So if you're looking for warm days, they're just not going to be able to happen in these in this type of pattern. Maybe you get the odd warm day if you get enough sun, you get your temperatures up into the 60s, but it's hard to imagine how you're going to do much more with this.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And again, it looks like for the better part of the next 2 weeks, it's going to be more chilly than mild and sunny and dry. And I know it is depressing when you think about how lovely it was for many days last week. And now all of a sudden we're paying the fiddler for that. And it looks like we're going to be paying for a good long time. Never could understand how the number of, dreary days always seem to outnumber the nice days by a factor of, and this is my unbiased view here, by a factor of like 3 to 1. For every beautiful day you get 3 lousy ones. and so we had a nice stretch of weather for a few days last week, and now it looks like the lousy weather is going to be with us for not just this week, but maybe carrying over into next week. On the chat board, Joe, Mr. Reuben Fairchild is asking if I could define for him what VEI is. And VEI is kind of like for the geophysicists out there, the equivalent of the Saffir-Simpson scale. We, of course, measure the Saffir-Simpson scale, hurricane activity, on a 1 to 5 scale. Well, a VEI is volcanic explosivity index, and that runs from 0 to 8. And so to give you just an idea, Mount St. Helens, when it erupted in May of 1980, that was on a scale of 1 to 8 or 0 to 8. 0 to 8 is nothing. I mean, there's no non-explosive event. And Mount St. Helens in 1980 was about a 4. The Krakatoa was a 6. And believe it or not, there was one even more potent than Krakatoa, Tambora, in 1815. That ranked about a 7. And Tambora is the volcano that supposedly led to the so-called year without a summer in New England in 1816. That was the year that it snowed in parts of New England every month of the year, including July and August, because there was so much aerosol, so much ash that had been put up into the atmosphere. As you mentioned, Joe, that stuff has to go really high, 10 to 20 miles above the surface of the earth, in order to have any influence. And
Right.
Volcanoes like Krakatoa, Tambora, Pinatubo, those kind of volcanoes, those were boom. Those were gigantic eruptions. In fact, I think I read somewhere that they could actually hear Krakatoa's eruption when it finally let go. That they were able to hear that explosion from 3,000 miles away. There were people who said that there was distant cannonading off on the horizon in the direction of where Krakatoa exploded. Just think about this: if Mount St. Helens had the potency of Krakatoa in 1883 and erupted with that force, we here in New York would have been able to hear the eruption of that volcano. Thankfully, it never turned out that way. But I think right now the St. Vincent volcano pales in comparison to those really big eruptions of yesteryear.
Krakatoa is east of Java. Remember that movie?
Remember the movie?
Yes.
I remember that.
Krakatoa, east of Java.
East of Java.
Okay, well, that narrows it down, doesn't it? Because Mr. Reuben Fairchild wants to know where Krakatoa. It's spelled with a K, by the way. It's in the like Indonesia in that area.
It's
east of Java.
East of Java, Joe.
East of Java and west of T.
They had a very bad. For 1 year, they had a very bad science fiction show on television. I think it was in 1968 or 66. The Time Tunnel. It lasted all of 1 season, and these 2 guys were traveling in time. They always landed in one specific historic spot of note, and in one of the episodes, they landed on the island where Krakatoa was, and they had to figure out how they were going to get off.
How did they get off?
Before the damn thing blew up.
How did they get off? Did they cancel the series before they were able to escape?
I think just before the eruption, they somehow managed to switch the time frequency or whatever, and they got him off of the island before. But through the whole episode, you kept hearing Krakatoa like rumble, and whoever was on that island, they were trying to convince it, this is going to go. Anyway.
Nah, it ain't going to go. Nah, not happening.
Isn't there a volcano in the Canary Islands somewhere that supposedly when it erupts, and they expect it to erupt, big time like Krakatoa or Pinatubo, then when it erupts, it's going to cause a gigantic tsunami that's going to go right across the Atlantic Ocean. And,
well, I think because because of the fault line that's over there, that they're always talking. Occasionally you see stuff about how part of the island's basically going to fall into the ocean, and that's going to be the catalyst for some huge mega tidal wave that's going to go across the Atlantic and right up into your backyard. It's going to come up the Hudson River.
Yes. Now, Mr. Reuben Fairchild is asking, where is Java? Mr. Fairchild,
look it
Java
up.
Java is west. No, Java is west of Krakatoa. So if you know where Krakatoa is, you could find Java.
Right. Krakatoa is east of Java. Actually, you can't find Krakatoa because that island's gone now.
It's gone.
It's gone. So. The volcano erupted, and then they took the island with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's in that. What is that? Indonesia, those islands there, Singapore, and that whole complex. Right. That's between Australia and Southeast Asia.
Krakatoa is east of Java, and Java is west of Krakatoa.
I used to be good at geography when I had a memory, but now apparently, I'm finding I have to relearn stuff. But I used to just know off the tip of my fingers.
Now, Coin Pig is saying Krakatoa is not east of Java. But you and I grew up, Joe.
But
and
the
there was that
movie said
that they-
so.
It was east of Java.
The movie was crack. The name of the movie was, and
Movie was
the ads, the commercials that ran on television was, with sort of that deep booming voice, Krakatoa, east of Java.
East of Java.
I don't know why they had to include that. There must have been some marketing person that said, we can't just call it Krakatoa because it sounds like a broken foot. So we better, give it some perspective somehow. They couldn't say Krakatoa east of L.A.
All right, here it is. Film format: Krakatoa, east of Java, a 1968 American disaster film starring Maximilian Schell, Joe.
No kidding.
And Brian Keith. Brian Keith. That was Family Affair.
That's right.
I wonder
yes.
if Buffy and Jody were on the island with Brian Keith. And during the 1970s, the film was re-released. They changed the name in the 70s. They changed it to simply Volcano.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. I guess it's,
I didn't know it either.
I guess the Krakatoa east of Java thing didn't catch on. And then they tried it again.
Loosely, and I use that term significantly here, loosely based on events surrounding the 1883 eruption of the volcano on the island of Krakatoa, with the characters engaged in the recovery of a cargo of pearls from a shipwreck perilously close to the volcano.
Oh, right.
And it was nominated for the Academy Award. It wasn't for Best Special Visual Effects. It did get a nomination for the Academy Award.
Actually, I'm just pulling it up on Rotten Tomatoes. I wanted to see, what kind of reviews.
And Joe, who was the one who said that they were wrong? That it's not east of Java. It says here in Wikipedia now, famously, the movie's title is inaccurate. Krakatoa is actually west of Java, but the movie's producer thought that east was a more atmospheric word, as Krakatoa is located in the Far East. There you go.
Oh, fine. I'm trying to look this up on Rotten Tomatoes just to see what kind of reviews it got. Because, Maximilian Schell in that movie, I mean, he's no small potatoes. And Diane Baker was in it, and as you said, Brian Keith. And of course, I look it up, I pull up, I click on the movie, and what does it say? Internal server error. Sorry, but something went wrong. Oh, here it is. Hold on.
You're right. Maximilian Schell, Diane Baker, Brian Keith, Sal Mineo.
Oh my! That must have been.
Mineo.
Well, Sal Mineo died tragically. He was murdered.
He played Leon Cavallo Borghese.
Oh, good Lord! So on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets a 0. Okay, and a 0, and the audience score is a 20. It gets a 27. Let's see what some of these reviews have to say about it.
Additionally, Peter Graves from Mission Impossible, right?
Yes.
Peter Graves is listed in the opening credits.
Hang on. Oh, God, this website is so slow. Okay. Just seeing what some people said about this movie.
Titled, during production of Krakatoa east of Java, its producers became aware that Krakatoa is, in fact, west of Java and east of Sumatra. Mount Tambora, or Sumbawa, is much less well known than Krakatoa, despite its own and even larger cataclysmic explosion in 1815, is the violent volcano east of Java. Despite the geographic error in the film's title, its makers chose to leave it unchanged, apparently believing that it was a more exotic title than Krakatoa west of Java. Furthermore, the film aided in popularizing the spelling Krakatoa as opposed to the Indonesian spelling Krakatau, T-A-U. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm just reading this one review. This says, since the disaster doesn't seem enough of a story for the filmmakers, there are tacked on tales about a mutiny, sunken treasure, deep sea divers, a new type of diving bell, balloonists, The Search for an Orphan Boy. Of course, you have to have nuns in there. Convicts, A Fire, and if right, and if that weren't enough, it tosses in a little striptease. Oh, good Lord. Uh,
So there you go. You know, but Joe, the movie producers, they do this to all the movies. They do. Apollo 13, for example, toward the end of the movie, they said there was a typhoon watch in the area where Apollo 13 was supposed to splash
I don't
land
remember
in the
that.
Pacific. No such thing whatsoever. But of course, they had to make.
They have to make
How about
stuff
the
up.
movie The Babe? How about the movie The Babe? I don't know if you saw this. This was the guy who played the Babe was Roseanne's husband. Who
Oh,
played
okay.
Roseanne's husband on the TV
Oh,
series?
his face is right. John Goodman.
John Goodman. He played Babe Ruth. There's a scene in that movie where Babe Ruth is at bat and he hits the ball straight up in the air, and the ball goes so high up that Babe Ruth, or John Goodman, is able to circle the bases for an inside the park home run before the pop fly landed somewhere in the infield.
Never
Never
happened.
happened. And toward the end of his career, they show Babe Ruth, who I guess was granted a special dispensation by baseball, so that if he hit a ball, he didn't have to run the bases because he was so old and so tired out. So they had somebody run the bases for him. That never happened either. I mean, why do they have to do these things?
Mr. Reuben Fairchild, I'm just kind of, you got to answer this question. How old are you? How old are you? Okay, because you can't possibly be. Oh, you've got to be. I'm going to guess under the age of 12, because your comments are really just incredibly childlike. So, I mean, if you could kind of like let me know if I'm wrong, because it'd be even more tragic if you're going to tell me you're in your 30s or 40s and you write stuff like the stuff that you write on the chat board. This movie sounds like it's 50 years old. Jesus Christ. Well, let me tell you something. I myself much rather would watch some of the classics that were done, 50 years ago, since some of the crap that's put out as movies right now. So there. Robert Russo hitting super chat. He must have loved my comments so much. Thank you so much, Robert. most appreciated. Yeah, I mean, just really, God. And the other thing is with you, it's like I just running through all the chat. I've been watching the chat very carefully. Do you ever even post anything? Everything you post is negative. Everything you post is either negative or nasty. Seriously, good God, grow up. I'm sorry, I had to say that because it was just getting on my nerves. Every comment, you can't possibly be this negative on life. Oh,
You realize, of course, now he may, Mr. Fairchild may end up going the same place that what's his name went.
Who?
The one who said that winter was over in December.
Oh, you mean Smadamad. Oh, we still have a search party out. We still have a search party out for Smadamad. Nobody knows what in the name of God happened to that person. Good God. Just be more positive, Ruben. I mean, if that's, using your real name on there. I mean, just be a little more positive. The chat's usually, everybody on the chat, it's a nice, wonderful conversation that goes on. You guys exchange a lot of information. Kind of, play along and be positive for a little while. It might help you. Okay, just take it. Just take a little advice. Or 22. Okay, so look, take it up a notch. You're 22. Not everybody's wrong. Not everything is negative. I sound like I'm talking to my kid. Although all my children are older than that now. What's that?
Yeah. I was 22 once.
We all were 22 once. In fact, you're going to be divisible. Pretty soon, you're going to be divisible by your age. You're going to be divisible by 3.
Now.
I mean, no. Well, I'm almost there too. I mean, both of us are going to be. I'm going to be divisible because for 21 next in January, I'll be 63.
Well.
Oh, David Schwartz says Babe Ruth did not have a courtesy runner, but there was a player known as Babe's Legs who would often go in for him as a pinch runner or defensive replacement. But this was when, excuse me, and this was when he was with the Yankees. He says.
Well, if in the movie, in the game where he hits 3 home runs at Forbes Field, I mean, he goes to first base and then the runner runs the rest of the way around for the first 2 home runs, and then when he hits the 3rd home run, he waves off the runner and he goes around the bases himself. And supposedly after he crosses home plate, he retires from baseball. He tells the owner. He walks up to the owner of the Boston Bees or the Boston Braves, and takes his hat off and drops it, and more or less that says, "I quit. I'm not playing anymore," which is also an untruth because he continued after he hit those 3 home runs to play for Boston for a while longer. But again, that's the way the movie was. That's the way the movie was written. You know, they try to hype things up. The original Babe Ruth movie starred William Bendix, Joe.
Yes, it's William Bendix in The Life of Riley, with Marjorie Reynolds as Peg, Tom DeAndre as Gillis, Wes Morgan as Junior, and Gloria Blondell as Honeybee.
I used to watch that show in reruns on CBS Channel 2, like in the afternoon. Remember that?
Yes.
The Life of what a revolting development this is. And in that movie, they said that movie, the movie of the biography of Babe Ruth, played by William Bendix, they said that the Babe actually saw that movie, and they said that was the thing that was the last straw that killed Babe Ruth. He walked out of the movie before it was over. Supposedly, there's a scene where Babe Ruth rushes into a hospital with a dying dog, and the little kid who owns the dog, and he starts screaming, "Get a doctor out here! We have a sick patient."
Yeah.
Who the hell are you? I'm Babe Ruth. Take care of this dog.
William Bendix. William Bendix was very good in Lifeboat, Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat.
Yes. Yes.
He was quite good in that movie, and they had to amputate his leg in that critical scene there in the middle of the picture. There were also a whole bunch of Tallulah Bankhead stories that I don't necessarily want to get into, but it's a very good Hitchcock film.
And of course, Hitchcock did a cameo appearance in every single movie, and you say to yourself, so how did he possibly make a cameo appearance in Lifeboat? And he did, because there was a newspaper, and they're coming through the newspaper. There he is.
Let me tell you the difference, because let me tell you the difference between the movies from today and the movies from the quote unquote old movies and the black and white movies. Okay, so the big difference I find is that in the good, every year there are movies that'll go down as classics, and you watch them certainly on Turner Classic Movies, but the older movies had to deal with censors and all sorts of other things. So the writers had to be brilliant to be able to get around censors. And the old black and white movies, when you watch them, they require you to do 2 things that you don't necessarily do in movies of today: listen and think. Okay, you have to really focus on what's going on. And when you approach those movies, and then you start to look at how they're directed, how they're shot, you really have to think your way through the movie, and you can't just sit there and just watch it. You have to understand what's going on at different levels. I think it makes those movies better in terms of quality. You watch a movie, any classic movie, Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon. I can make a list of. I was watching All the King's Men last week with the Broderick Crawford, which is supposed to be about based on sort of loosely based on the biography of Huey Long. I think the acting in that movie is just astounding, and just absolutely astounding. But a movie like that today just doesn't, it just doesn't get made. It's not sexy enough.
What was your favorite movie? I mean, the absolute number one on your list.
Okay, so I've always found that to be a really difficult question because there are so many different movies that I love and I don't like to compare one with the other because they might be, different types of movies. For example, I love Harvey with Jimmy Stewart, and about the rabbit, hilarious movie. I love All About Eve, which I think is probably one of the best written, if not the best written movie ever made. The writing in that is just astounding, and you really have to pay attention to it. You could put I could probably list 5 Hitchcock movies that I could sit and watch anytime they're on. Shadow of a Doubt, which is on my list of all-time favorites. And then there are a few others that are not as well known necessarily, but when they come on, I like to watch at Christmas time. I love watching The Bishop's Wife. I really enjoy that. I love Frank Capra's You Can't Take It With You. I think that's a far better movie than It's a Wonderful Life, and actually came before that. So those are among some of the movies. There's a lot of other ones that I could probably sit here all night long. I'd have to go back and really kind of write up a list, because now, of course, you asked me that question. I'm kind of rumming through my head, thinking, okay, which movie? I'll tell you, just something, because it just popped into my head now. Angela Lansbury in The Manchurian Candidate. I think that is probably one, if not the best, it's certainly in the top 5 best performances by an actress. That is such an evil character that she plays in that movie, and she was playing the mother of the character Raymond, and in real life she was only like 2 or 3 years older than him. But her performance in that movie, I mean, I know why she didn't get the Oscar that year, because that the Oscars that year went to The Miracle Worker. Patty Duke won for best supporting actress, and Anne Bancroft won for best actress. But her performance in that, to me, was just it's among the 5 best performances that I've for a supporting actress anyway.
Well, you have a number of different movies that you go through and try to make a subjective determination as what's the top. With me, I don't do that. To me, the number one movie, at least for me, was a movie that was made in 1964 with Henry Fonda, and it was in black and white, and the name of the movie is Fail-Safe.
Yes, I love Fail-Safe. That's a great movie.
And that movie, I still wonder to this day why Larry Hagman, who of course played,
he should have got an Oscar nomination for that. He really should have
got an Oscar.
I've read stories about that movie, the making of that movie, and that subject does come up. He should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that. But Fail-Safe is a great movie. I've seen it several times. Excellent movie. So that's why I don't like. See, that's why for me, you name a movie that I would not have named it in this conversation because I wouldn't have thought of it. But you bring it up. Absolutely great movie. I'd put it on my list.
But here's the sad part, and what you mentioned before. You have to get into that movie. If you have to stay with it. If in the first half hour or 45 minutes of that movie, a lot of people may just be scratching their heads and saying, "Where's this taking us? What's going on here? I don't understand it," or whatever. Because that's our modern society. But if you stay with it, you eventually see how all the pieces start coming together in the middle and latter part of the movie. But again, if you don't stay with it in the beginning, you're not going to understand it. It's not going to be a great movie.
And you also have to know the history of the Cold War too.
Correct.
You have to, if you live through that time, you'll get it. But if you didn't, you'd have to know the history of that. So Mr. RF wants to know our best weather-themed movie. I have to tell you, quite honestly, I mean, I haven't seen what was it like? What were the weather-themed movies in the last 30 years? A couple of them. The one that's based on the
Twister. Twister.
I sat through like 10 minutes of it, and it was like, no, I'm not watching this.
The Perfect Storm.
Yeah,
my wife
no.
hates that movie.
Yeah, that's not for
Renata hates it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I watched a little bit of it. And it was like, no, not doing it. I do love the tornado in The Wizard of Oz.
Well, that effect was spectacular. It's hard to believe that was made in 1939. It is every bit as good as any of the effects that you'll see done by computer today. Those tornadoes. Actually, there were several of them, right? There was more than one tornado. It's a twister.
It's a twister.
It's a twister.
No,
Dorothy.
Dorothy. Well, you know my interpretation of the Wizard of Oz. A juvenile delinquent, running around with three older men in a somewhat inappropriate relationship. They murder this They killed this poor old woman who the only thing she inherited from her dead sister were her shoes. And then Dorothy, what does Dorothy do? She lawyers up. Seriously. Christinapedia, you bring up a point though. She said The Sound of Music, because of the historical reference. I'd never seen it until 8 years ago because I didn't know it took place during World War II, the storyline, and now it's one of your favorites. The Sound of Music is a good movie. I really enjoy it, but in terms of what you said when you first saw it 8 years ago, I just want to mention for Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. There's a movie that I really, the first time, and I was always a big Hitchcock fan. I watched Vertigo. I hate Vertigo. I hated it. I hated it. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. And then I watched it again and again, and I watched it 9 or 10 times. I think at the 10th time, I finally got it. I finally understood what that movie is about. I'm not going to explain it because it took me so long to figure it out. I'm not giving that, I'm not just going to give that free work away. But my point is, it's a movie that is so intricate and so at such a different level, both psychologically and artistically, that I had to sit down and watch it 10 times until I finally understood it. And now I watch it every time it comes on because it
received mixed reviews initially, but then as time wore on, in the same way that you were affected by it, more and more people got into it, and in some cases they now say that Vertigo surpasses Orson Welles' movie, Rosebud.
Citizen Kane.
Was it?
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane surpasses that as the greatest film that has ever been made. Believe it or not.
Yeah, Citizen Kane is it's in a world of its own in terms of It's amazing that Orson Welles directed that movie, and he was I think he was like 25 when he did it. To do something that brilliant so young, and then how do you beat that later on in your career? It's very, very difficult to do. But
even Waterman on the chat board says Dr. Strangeglove, and even that movie Dr. Strangeglove is the satirical takeoff of Failsafe. After Failsafe came out, I guess they decided, like, why don't we do a funny version of that? And that was what Dr. Strange. And of course, the famous thing about Dr. Strangeglove was the very end when Slim Pickens rides one of the nuclear warheads. He's going down. He leaves the plane, and he's going, yeah.
Yeah. Michael McGuire hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Michael. He says, for being here tonight, Joe. I assume for both of us. Or maybe for you, because you were saying yesterday how with the Moderna shot you weren't sure, if you were going to get side effects or not. and thankfully so far.
I haven't. I'll tell you what. Literally in the last hour, Joe, in the last hour. Now I could move my hand like this,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel anything when I was having dinner 2 hours ago. Now I'm doing it, and now I'm beginning to feel like
Sore.
a little bit sore.
Yeah.
In this
Yeah,
part of
I was more sore from the second shot than from the first. I was the only, my arm got was hurting me the next day. Whereas on the first shot, it was it was a little sore, but it was nothing, you know, there was nothing that was really truly bothering me. Um, but yeah, it definitely was hurting a little bit more after the second one. So, well, that
We've
was
been
a
going for
nice.
1 hour and 18 minutes.
Yeah, that was a nice tangent to get on. By the way, Turner Classic Movies during the month of April. This is usually it's in February, but because of the Oscars being late with everything with the pandemic and all. So April is 31 is their usual 31 days of Oscar. So obviously it takes the 30 days of April and the first day of May. They usually do it in February, so it takes the 28 days of February and the first 3 days of uh, the first 2 days of March. But they're running Oscar-nominated movies every day, and it's not just Best Pictures. They're nominating, showing you movies that might have been nominated for special effects, or they might have been nominated for directing, and not necessarily for acting. And they might have won Best Picture, but they might not have won Best Picture, or not even be nominated for Best Picture. But it's certainly a very large variety of different movies that you may not have seen before. So I always run through Turner Classics at least once a day to see what's on. And sometimes they have some really funny, old 1940s comedies. And they actually, by the way, they're running, which Abbott and Costello movie? I think they're running Buck Privates next month. They're going to start running some Abbott and Costello movies. I haven't seen those in a while.
I haven't seen that one for a long time either. And Reuben Fairchild now mentions about Escape from Alcatraz. Here's a movie that's not often shown, with almost the same title, The Birdman of Alcatraz, with
yes,
Burt Lancaster.
And my absolute favorite supporting actress of all time, Thelma Ritter. And that was her 6th Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
Thelma Ritter was great. She stole any movie that you see that Thelma Ritter has been in, that she got nominated for an Oscar. She steals the movie. She's the one you remember when the movie's over. And she plays Burt Lancaster's mother in that movie. I haven't seen that from beginning to end. I always have caught it like in the middle or the second half. I have to, one of these days when it comes on again, I'm going to sit there and watch from start to finish. But she was terrific. Every movie that she landed in. She's in Rear Window. Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Boy, you don't stay up very late, I know, because down here on on MeTV, there's the Alfred Hitchcock Hour.
Yes,
they run that over 1 o'clock in the morning.
And
so,
another great,
another
great supporting actress did a few of those was Gladys Cooper.
Gladys Cooper, that's right.
Yes, she was terrific.
That's right.
She was terrific in everything.
Wasn't Gladys Cooper the one who played the old woman in
Twilight Zone? Yes, with Robert Redford. Yes, that's Gladys Cooper. That was
on just last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Gladys Cooper. She played Betty Davis's mother in Now Voyager, even though she was only a few years older than Betty Davis, and steals the movie. Supporting actors. The really good supporting actors are the ones that you remember when you go see a movie and you come away like Joe Pesci, for example, in Goodfellas. You can think of all the actors that were in Goodfellas. He's the name that everybody remembers, and he was
right.
So that's how a supporting actor has done their job when they steal the movie. Oh, good Lord! All right, it was a good side conversation that we went off to. So that made for a nice 1 hour and what are we? An hour and 22 minutes in now.
Yes.
So let's say good night. Oh, Mr. Ruben Fairchild, thank you so much for hitting super chat. I know I was a little hard on you, young man, but you're 22 and you're still a little bit wet behind the ears. But I'm sure you'll get it. You'll get it. Thank you for hitting super chat. Very, very much appreciated. So that's your assignment, by the way. Go, watch a couple. Watch a few of the classic old movies. And just bear in mind, you're going to have to watch them. You may have to watch them multiple times before you truly appreciate uh, what those movies were trying to say. And I'll just leave it at that. I've done my good deed for the day. My rant turned out to produce something positive.
All right, Joe.
All right.
I'll tell you what I'm laughing. I'll tell you what I'm laughing at after we close shop here.
Okay. All right. So the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight was and still is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, right on Long Island. The telephone number is 631-756-1125. It's mulch season and topsoil season and everything else you need to get your yard in order. So give them a call or go to their website, omnitruevalue.com, or just drive up with your truck and load up with some mulch. So you and I will be back at our usual shopping time tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern. So we'll see you again. We'll see you then. Thank you. All the super chat hits tonight from David Fuller, Robert Russo, Michael McGuire, and Mr. Ruben Fairchild. Thank you so much, all of you, for hitting super chat. Joe and I really do appreciate it. See you tomorrow night at 7:30.
Have a good one.